I picked up this Sheaffer's when I was flea market shopping just the other week, and it was a pretty good bargain, I'd say. I think I paid $5 for it. And it is a Sheaffer's Touchdown Saratoga model. And the reason I can tell it's a Saratoga model is based on the cap, as we can see here. The goal in this video is to restore this pen to working condition and to also subsequently remove those annoying chew marks that are on the cap and the barrel. To a lesser extent, the barrel, but to a greater extent to the cap. We see here it's not a Triumph nib, but it's a standard Sheaffer's two-tone nib. Either of these nibs are fantastic, by the way. If you ever get a chance to pick up one of these pens, if you're in the market for a really nice, reliable vintage fountain pen, these pens are great. Seriously, they're some of the most reliable pens. Sheaffer's in general are very reliable pens, even in today's standards. They don't leak very much, if at all. They don't have any. They write very consistently. Now that said, the pens don't flex like the older ones do, like the ones from the 30s and before. But if you want something reliable, these are fantastic, and I'll talk more about that later. The ink sac has crystallized, which is completely normal, and we're just pushing it out with some dental picks and some tweezers. And it's completely normal to have ink sacs just crystallize over time and dry out. And just to demonstrate, I can crumble it in my fingers. That's how brittle it is. Down the middle of this, there's a screw, and I'm unscrewing this so I can disassemble the sleeve from the barrel. That's so I can disassemble the pen fully so we can service it more. One of the first things I'm going to do is remove the O-ring. That's going to be one of the first things that we do. There's an O-ring between that seals this sleeve from the barrel. And we're going to actually go ahead and do that right now. So I've got these really thin needle tweezers, and that's going to, I'm just going to try to attempt to pick at it, and I'm trying to be careful not to scar up the threads that are directly above the O-ring. This ink sac this filling mechanism is, by the way, called the vacuum fill. That was coined by Sheaffer's. These pens, by the way, are from around the 1950s, the early 50s. So the pen was released in 1949, and these pens usually thrived from, I think, that time to the mid-50s, from what I've read up about them. I'm guessing this one's probably from 52, 53, but there's not really a good way to tell. That's just a hunch. And here's that O-ring, that old O-ring that we finally got out. You can tell it's not in the best of shape. We're going to go ahead and replace that later. For now, what we're going to do is we're going to take the rest of the parts and actually dunk them and zap them, as I like to call them, in my ultrasonic cleaner. And I'd be careful about ultrasonic cleaners depending on the material. It's a little bit more aggressive. It basically just shakes the water really hard, really quickly. And it does a really good job of removing stubborn ink that might be inside of the pen, as we'll see once I turn it on. But I like it because it prevents me from having to sit there with the pen underneath the tap, or having to constantly be rinsing and flushing out the feed and the nib, the section, if you like, constantly. So this does a really good job of that, and since it's plastic, I don't really have a problem with it. I'm not too worried about it. All right, so it is disassembled, or it's back together, I should say, and straight out of it, we're going to go ahead and dry it off by, I like to stick some paper towels in there, and just to kind of to get rid of all the excess moisture or the water in there. And it also helps clean out some this loose debris that might be floating around in there as well. The Saratoga model, I should add, came in like a variety of different cap variants. It came in at least 6, if I count them here, 5 or 6 different variants, all different cap bands, some with a white dot on them, some without. The white dot, I think, later became a marketing ploy for just as a symbol, like a logo, essentially, for Sheaffers. Just like the ideal logo is for Waterman's, or the white star is for Mont Blanc, you have the white dot for Sheaffers. And originally, it was a sign of quality. I think later they just started putting it on all their pens, but double fact check me on that one. So I'm chipping away at the remaining ink sac that has crystallized itself on the nipple of the section. And it's very easy to chip away at this with a dental pick. I then later go after the glue material that held the threads, if you like, the thread ring onto the section. It wasn't supposed to come off, but I'm guessing either the ultrasonic kind of loosened it up, or just because of time, it kind of got loose, and I'm not too worried about that. We're going to go ahead and shellac that back on. I'm not quite sure what they used here, if it was a glue, a paste, or some other type of adhesive. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I'm just kind of just cleaning it up a little bit right here. And here we go. I'd say it looks a lot better than before. Our next order of business is to polish the barrel. And what I'm doing first is I'm taping off the inscription, the engraving on the barrel, so that we don't erase or sand away the engraving. And we're going to start off with, I believe I start off here with 800 grit, which turned out to be a little too fine, actually. And I'm trying to actually remove some of the scuff marks on here. There's some pretty significant scuffing near here. So I then think I choose a lower grit, and then I work higher. So I've got this grit. So these sandpapers go from, I think, 320, and I've got micro mesh that goes all the way up to 12,000, and I just work my way up from there, and it usually produces pretty solid results. One of the things I also do is I top it off with semi-chrome polish at the very end. As you see, I'm doing semi-chrome polish right here. And semi-chrome is it's a very good material for really getting stuff, for really getting something to shine very nicely. It doesn't even matter what material it is. It just makes it absolutely gorgeous. And for plastic, it does a fantastic job of it as well. The next order of business is we're going to turn to the chew marks on the cap, and this is going to be a little bit more challenging because they are very close to the clip. And, of course, we want to avoid scuffing the clip or the trim. That's what we call it. That's the ring, the cap band or cap ring that we have there. And, of course, the clip. These are typically gold-filled, and what gold-filled means is, in a nutshell, from my understanding, is it's a really thick coating of gold. You can think of a really thick gold plating, but it's got some heft to it. That's my understanding of gold filled. So it's much more robust than gold plating by a long shot. And I'm just using regular painter's tape or masking. Well, not masking tape because that would leave an adhesive, but just regular painter's tape just to protect them from the sanding that I'll be doing. And while I'm going about that, I mean, I should also just mention about more of these pens in general is the Triumph nib was a nib that actually wrapped around the entire diameter of the section, or the entire diameter of the feed. And I have two of these pens, and they almost never dry out. It's very hard for them to dry out, and I imagine they are quite expensive, or they were at least expensive to produce, because they are completely 14 karat gold, solid 14 karat gold nibs. And they use quite a bit more gold than standard nibs did at the time. So they were definitely high end. Well, these are high end pens just in general to begin with. So yeah, they don't look too fancy, but they feel great, and they write well. You can already see quite a marked improvement that all that sanding has done already to the cap body. And I just finishing it off right here with a little bit of semi-chrome polish. And at this point, I feel comfortable enough to remove the masking tape and continue attacking that section right there. And of course, I finish it off with a sunshine cloth. That's to help remove any of the leftover polish or any of the fingerprints and the oils, if you like. And here's the finished cap. It's not completely finished. I mean, I still have a little bit of, if you look really closely, there's just a little bit of that sanding near the clip, but that's fine for now. I'm not going to spend all day doing this. I just want to get it in pretty solid working order. That's my goal here. I have a little bit of shellac that I'm opening up here, and what we're going to do now is I am replacing the thread ring and being very careful to add just a skosh of shellac right there, and that's going to hold the thread ring on there. So you can see there, I'm just going to set it in there, and I am going to also put it off to the side. Now I've got this whole big box I've been collecting. Let's go ahead and grab one of these O-rings. I have a little collection of them. And this is the tricky part, is to set the O-ring into the slot right there. And it took me a bit of time to really get it there. And I really am cutting down and fast forwarding through some of this, because it's a very finicky thing right here to seat the O-ring. But with a little bit of doing, it finally gets in there. There's a little slot, by the way, just a little rim that it seats in there. And then I'm going to just apply a little bit of silicone grease just to help seal the O-ring and the this metal sleeve. I'm sure there's a name for it, but and then just push it out all the way through. Then pull it all the way out. And then next order of business, add the blind cap back on there. And then add that screw, which I'm just going to drop down in there. And luckily I actually got it on the first try, where it landed thread side down, so I could just stick my screwdriver in there and just turn it, and it's just grabbed immediately. So that was kind of nice. You don't have to sit there shaking it, hoping that it seats in there properly. It just worked in there the first time, so that was great. Then you kind of just work the silicone grease in there, and there you have it. That's all you need to do. You can hear it sucking and releasing air. Yeah. I'm actually going to leave these chew marks alone because of how close they are to the grooves on the blind cap right there. I think I'm going to do more harm than good, so I'm just going to actually leave that alone. Now here, I'm attempting to find an ink sac in here. Uh, the thing that I then decided to do was actually to not install an ink sac in here because I know I'm not going to be writing with this pen for a long time. So I decided to just ignore because adding an ink sac in there is all it's going to do is just dry out if I leave it in there. So I decided just to not put one in. So I decided to just call it that for that. So, and just put everything back on. And just wiping away the nibs to clean it up a little bit. It didn't really need a lot of work. That's pretty much all there was to it. Yep, and then I'm just finishing it off here with a sunshine cloth just to remove any oils or fingerprints or residue. And after that, we're done. And I'll have to say it looks really good. It's much better than what it looked like before. We still have a little bit of teeth marks near the back end, but again, I'm just going to leave those alone just because, again, I think I'll do more harm removing them than good. We can see there's almost no evidence of teeth marks near the cap. And I could have spent probably another couple hours just really removing every single blemish on here. But, I think it's fine. It's definitely in usable condition, and I'm very pleased with it. And here's a couple of close-up shots of the nib, and I'll get a closer one here in just a sec. But it wasn't too much of a challenge. It was just a few hours out of my day, and it's a great writer, so I enjoyed it a lot. So that's all there is for now. So if you like this video, definitely drop it a like. It lets me know that I'm doing a good job. And if you want to keep up with what I'm doing, I encourage you to subscribe down below. It's completely free, and it helps me out quite a lot. So I'd really appreciate that if you could like and subscribe. But that's all there is for today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.